How do centuries of human wisdom become compressed into simple, everyday language? A proverb is usually defined as an instructive sentence or common and pithy saying, acting as a fixed expression across time. Yet, back in 1768, John Ray defined a proverbial phrase quite differently, noting that a proverbial phrase permits alterations to fit the grammar of the context. But how did famous historical figures craft the memorable words we repeat today, and where did these iconic sayings truly originate? Long before modern literature emerged, ancient thinkers shaped our understanding of life through profound philosophical declarations. Laozi was a Chinese philosopher who lived from 604 BC to c. 531 BC, and the proverb "to be worn out is to be renewed" is attributed to Laozi. Centuries later in classical antiquity, St. Ambrose lived in 347 AD. To St. Ambrose, history attributes the famous proverb, "When in Rome, do as the Romans do." But how would classical literature build upon these early foundations? As history progressed into epic storytelling, major literary figures left an indelible mark on written tradition. Virgil wrote the Aeneid, establishing a legacy of poetic grandeur that echoed across generations. Later, John Milton wrote Paradise Lost, while James Sandford wrote The Garden of Pleasure. During this vibrant era of literature, William Shakespeare wrote Henry IV and famously said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." These timeless writers elevated common expression, setting the stage for political and philosophical thinkers of the Enlightenment. In the 18th century, prominent figures began linking morality and practical wisdom to public life. Benjamin Franklin was a polymath and founding father of the United States who was born in 1706 and died in 1790. His era celebrated clear and pragmatic thought across the Atlantic world. Meanwhile, Mary Wortley Montagu said civility costs nothing and buys everything, framing social grace as a universal virtue. Yet, as poetic voices emerged in England, proverbs took on an even more intimate artistic tone. Poetry and drama provided a powerful medium for creating phrases that resonated across centuries. William Cowper was an English poet who lived from 1731 to 1800. The proverb, "The innocent seldom find an uncomfortable pillow," is attributed to William Cowper, as is the celebrated phrase, "Variety is the spice of life." In theater, William Congreve wrote The Morning Bride, specifically writing Act 3 Scene 8 of The Morning Bride. But as military history unfolded, statements of strategy and caution took center stage. The 19th century witnessed major historical shifts where written words carried immense political weight. Historical records document that Valentine Blacker wrote in 1834, contributing to the commentary of his era. Decades later, as political philosophy examined authority and governance, John Dalberg Acton said absolute power corrupts absolutely in 1887. This warning about governance remains one of the most cited observations on human authority. Yet, across the globe, other leaders were advancing radically different perspectives on conflict and justice. In the modern era of political struggle, ethical principles transformed global movements. Mahatma Gandhi was the leader of the Indian independence movement, born in 1869 and died in 1948. Challenging violence with non-violent philosophy, Mahatma Gandhi said an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. His words reshaped international thought regarding justice and retribution. Meanwhile, journalists and entrepreneurs in the West were constructing their own sharp observations on human nature and modern society. The early 20th century brought sharp literary commentary from writers and journalists. Wilson Mizner was an American writer and entrepreneur who was born in 1876 and died in 1933. Around the same period, Haywood Broun was an American journalist born in 1888 who died in 1939. Across the ocean, Jules Renard was a French author who lived from 1864 to 1910. The proverb "truth is more valuable if it takes you a few years to find it" is often attributed to Jules Renard. Mid-century military events and fantasy literature further broadened cultural expression. U.S. General Douglas MacArthur was born in 1880 and died in 1964, leaving a notable imprint on military history. In literature, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in 1954, capturing global imagination with epic world-building during a crucial post-war era. Among recorded names in these historical compilations, H. Anthony Rabadanera is a person. But as famous sayings expanded, questions arose over who truly coined certain legendary proverbs. Attribution plays a fascinating role in how proverbs survive through generations. The famous proverb, "Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it," is attributed to George Santayana, serving as a timeless warning against past mistakes. Meanwhile, modern fiction created iconic expressions of its own. The proverb, "With great power comes great responsibility," is often attributed to Marvel Comics superhero Spider-Man. Yet, not every famous phrase has a single undisputed origin. When examining ancient and modern adages, scholars sometimes encounter unclear historical records. For instance, the proverb, "There are none so blind as those who will not see," is attributed variously to Edmund Burke or George Santayana, as sources conflict regarding its exact origin. It remains unconfirmed which thinker first spoke these words, demonstrating how proverbs evolve over time through multiple voices. This lingering ambiguity highlights the complex nature of oral and written tradition. Returning to our opening question of how human wisdom spreads, the distinction framed centuries ago remains essential. While a proverb is a fixed expression, John Ray defined a proverbial phrase in 1768 by noting how it permits alterations to fit the grammar of the context. From ancient philosophers like Laozi to modern pop icons, these sayings adapt to humanity's changing narrative. Though certain original authors remain debated, the enduring power of these words continues to shape our shared understanding.